Well, hello, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally, set up Joe Boo, does not work. Damn, Joe Boo looks like he's been through the ringer already. Okay, so here we are. It's Monday. The Cowboys have four practices left in Oxnard. That's it, four practices. They have the game, of course, against the Rams in Hawaii, and then they are headed back to Big D to continue. Time is slipping and going through fast. Now, of course, always there's drama. You know, we've got people going around saying Dak Prescott is nutty for turning down $30 million. Are you kidding me? Even though 30 million is the new 20 million. Okay, I mean, it's not like he would be the only one or he would have been the top paid quarterback or anything like that. And now you're hearing all this negativity and things out there. I heard somebody saying that Dak Prescott wanted $225 million. He wanted all of the cap money to go to him. I mean, it's getting crazy, and it's a lot of misinformation, and a lot of it comes from the talking heads. Because, see, there's a narrative out there. Everybody knows when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys or have bad news about the Dallas Cowboys, you get play. But it's my contention. Now, I know I'm a homer. I know I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. Okay, I get this. I'm going to be shaded towards my Dallas Cowboys, but I try to be balanced and fair. When my Cowboys are dog doo, I will say they are dog doo. When they are doing something wrong, I will say, in my mind, they're doing something wrong. Now, I will look at the glass half full as opposed to half empty, but, it's because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan and I love my team. But honestly, if you were a Martian and came down and watched the coverage of Dak Prescott versus the coverage of Carson Wentz, you would notice a difference. Seriously. Now, I'm going to show you how shaded this is, okay? Now, and I want you to be fair on this because I know we're going to have some Eagle fans in here and things that are going to go through and watch this. But let's be honest here because what we're told about with Dak Prescott, because again, oh my God, Dak Prescott turned down $30 million. You know what? He probably looked at the language in it, or his people looked at the language and said, this isn't really that good of a deal in comparison to other ones that are out there. And you look at all this, we know that quarterbacks that we had Jimmy Garoppolo be the highest paid. We've had, Matthew Stafford. We've had Andrew Luck that have been highest paid. Kirk Cousins at one point was the highest paid. It's just the way it does in football. It continues to go up. And with the salary cap going up, 10 million a year, well, it honestly is going to continue to go up. And I've got some other stuff that I'll talk about later because we're always told that if the quarterback takes that money, it's going to hamstrung the team. And I'll go through and deal with that because their contention is that Jimmy Garoppolo's contract and Matthew Stafford, those contracts are screwing up those teams, and I've got a response for that too. But I'll deal with the bull crap one step at a time. But I want you to listen to this and then we'll evaluate it, okay? Let's just listen and be fair and balanced, okay?
Carson Wentz was all smiles at training camp this week. The Eagles quarterback got a new deal this summer. Feels healthy, loves the team that's around him. Here's why. Philly retooled that offense this season, adding veteran skill position players like Deshaun Jackson and Jordan Howard, which according to Wentz should put fear in opposing defenses.
It makes it a pain in the butt to prepare for us, I would think, and so it's going to be fun this year to have coach designing game plans to get everybody on the field, to get everyone touches, to spread the ball around, and for me, it makes my job way easier. To know that whether we're 11 purse, 12 purse, we can go 13, we can put a couple running backs out there. I mean, we got talent everywhere, and guys that I've worked with in the past or that I trust a lot, and so my job is just going to be to spread the love and get the ball out and let those guys make their plays.
All right, Coach, you look at this team heading into this year, a lot of people call this the most complete team in the NFL. They did a lot of retooling on offense. What do you think about what Carson...
Okay, let's start right there. They did a lot of retooling on offense. So what does that mean? Oh, well, they went out and brought in Deshaun Jackson. They went out and got a running back from Chicago. So they brought in people. Now, the way it's taught with the Cowboys, when they bring in somebody, what do they say? Well, you can't win without having people around them. But isn't this putting people around Carson Wentz when you say you retooled the offense? But we'll go on. We'll go on.
had to say and what this Eagles offense looks like.
Well, you didn't even mention the draft picks that they added. They added 3 draft picks, the first round, and 2 second rounders on offense as well. So they do have a ton of weapons. And it's interesting to hear the offense coordinator, Mike Groh, talk about them transitioning more to 12 personnel, which is a 2 tight end type of set, and the versatility that they have out of that personnel grouping and the way that they're going to use that more. I thought that was interesting. And look, that does cause problems. And the ability to be effective in multiple personnel groupings is hard for defenses to get ready for. And when you have guys that can make plays in a lot of different ways and you have to truly defend the whole field, that's difficult as well, as opposed to taking out one star. Now, what that takes from the quarterback is he's got to be the guy that's willing to distribute across the board.
Yeah.
And not every quarterback can do that. And not every quarterback can deal with those personalities in the huddle who say, hey, I'm open, throw me the ball. Oh, I'm not getting the ball enough. Now, how that dynamic plays out is going to be interesting to see. The other thing I'll say about the quarterback is 2 out of his 3 seasons when he started, he's had a losing record. His numbers are great. His quarterback rating, his completion percentage, but the wins and losses 2 out of 3 years, he's had a losing record. So I gotta see that.
Okay, all right. So Eric Mangenius, as Tony Prano would say, has put it out there. He's like, the quarterback's got to be able to handle all the personalities and everything else. And he said a lot of true statements. I agree with him 100%. But he's also put out there that, Carson Wentz, though, 2 out of the 3 years he's had a losing record. And see, that's one of those things that I've been bringing up, that last year he was 5-6. 5-6. The 5 wins that he had, 2 against the Giants, and, those cockroaches, they didn't beat anything. The Redskins, the Jaguars, and the Colts early in the season when they were 2-4. And so he's kind of put it out there that, he still is not exactly one. But let's go on here. Let's go on.
To him, that I think it'd be more fair to say if we throw out the rookie year.
Okay, so here's where I tell you it's not balanced, okay? Because we go out and say, hey, Dak Prescott's got a winning season every year, right? Now, you hear Nick say, to be fair and balanced, we should throw out the rookie season. Why aren't we ever saying, to be fair to Dak, we've got this? Because we end up having all these statistics that seem to be good, yet it's always, he had to have people around him. We've retooled the Eagles to bring in more weapons for him. Deshaun Jackson, a deep threat and everything else. Running backs, they've got 3 draft picks of their first 3 picks that are offensive players that they've built and retooled a team. So isn't that the whole narrative of you need people around him? But let's continue.
I think it's rare for a rookie to come in week 1 as he did
but Dak Prescott did
have a winning record. I know Russell Wilson
There was a reason why they had that high draft pick.
Right. The team wasn't very good, and Russell Wilson and Andrew Luck did it, to be fair. And those are 2.
Dak Prescott did it too. You do know that, right? Dak Prescott was 13-3 with a team that was 4-12 the year before.
Guys who are all-timers, and they also had, I think, some stability that maybe Carson didn't have in his situation. They had a new head coach there, some other things. I'm not making excuses.
Yes, you are making excuses. Yes, you are making excuses. That's exactly what you're doing. You are making excuses for him, which I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with it. But if you're going to do it for Carson Wentz, who everybody says he's an MVP candidate, how come you don't do that with Dak Prescott?
I just don't want to use the rookie year against him. But
didn't he start out his rookie season on fire and then fade?
That sounds right. His first month of the year. In fact, I think you're...
So, Mangenius puts it back out there. He started out well, and then he tailed off. Regressed.
Absolutely right. Maybe even the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he was going to Canton early.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think you always say whenever somebody says
I don't know if I was on
a young player.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I'm sure I was on the show with you, and you're probably like, "Oh my God, this guy's Patrick Mahomes."
He's. You see where I'm getting at, right? You see where I have the love fest here. Nick has with Carson Wentz, right? Let's continue.
That never happened, okay. But the point, I understand your overall point, where I do think Philly has done a brilliant job. And this is where we talk about Howie Roseman all the time. We can't talk about him enough. I don't believe they have the most talented offense in the league. I don't. But they do have the deepest. Zach Ertz, their starting tight end, but you know why they can play two? Because Dallas Goedert's pretty darn good.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier.
Pick last year they got him into the lineup with some isolation. He's a huge target.
You said earlier, they've got 3 great offensive linemen, and Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, and probable future Hall of Famer, I hope it's okay to say with him, Jason Peters. And despite that, they move up in the first round to get another tackle, and Andre Dillard.
Okay, so we got that put in there.
We've talked about they bring in Deshaun Jackson when they already have Aguilar and Alshon Jeffrey, and they still draft J.J. Whiteside in the second round to add to that depth. They signed Jordan Howard, and they still draft Miles Sanders in the second round to add to that depth at running back. So this is a team that should be able to sustain injury if they have it. This is a team that will be able to present a lot of different weapons to you. And I don't think Deshaun's a guy who's going to be whining if he's not getting an abundance of throws his way, as long as he's getting a couple of game deep shots down the field, a chance to do what he does great. But it is on Carson Wentz to do something he didn't do a great job last year, which is not have tunnel vision on his tight end, and to be more egalitarian, if you will, with his distribution of passes, which is your concern, and I think a legitimate one. That's the downside to having so many guys on your team who believe, hey, I can be a real impact player, is you only have so many. How many plays of offense you're going to have a game? 65, 70 plays. You're going to have so many opportunities to distribute the ball accordingly.
That was really the only conflict you really had.
Wait a minute. You don't know about how many offensive plays you normally have in a game? Well, if it's a team that runs the ball, if it's a running game, you get about 50 to 60, okay? If it ends up being more of a shootout, you'll get about 60 to 70. In some crazy games, you might get as many as 80. You're an expert and you don't know that?
Last year was the fact that everyone thought Carson just went to Zach Ertz, and you wanted Nick to come in there. Nick Foles was really only throwing to Alshon Jeffrey. You had a little bit of a division there. So now you're right. You have a lot of offensive weapons. You have far more for Carson Wentz to choose from. And like you said earlier, Deshaun Jackson, he doesn't need the ball every time. There are certain routes, and that speed is really going to help Carson.
Right. The reason why I like the team is because of the supporting cast. It's a lot like the Clippers. The guys at this point, they're role players. Deshaun's not looking to be paid. Deshaun's not trying to make the Pro Bowl. He's trying to win a Super Bowl for Philadelphia, the team that drafted him. He's already been paid. He's been on a couple teams recently. So his buy-in, it's easy for him to buy in. Darren Sproles, which I believe is a wild card, he's going to be coming off the bench. He's your utility guy. He's been playing in the league. All he has to do is win a championship. The difference between this team and the other teams that we go up and down talking about their skilled guys, it's their big guys. They're offensive linemen. They're the only team in the NFL that has 2 of their tackles ranked in the top 10 as far as offensive tackles. They're the only team in the NFL, PFF rankings, interior linemen. They're the only team that have 2 teams, Brandon Brooks, the right guard, he's a star, and Kelsey, the 2 in the top 10. So you can talk about all the skilled guys. Gore is on to something, because in the NFL this year, one little thing we're going to start to see more is we're going to start to see more fullbacks starting to come back into play and more 12 personnel. Watch more tight ends playing, and that's the reason why Dallas Goedert, he is a huge asset for them, being that second-round pick, getting him involved. They have all the personnel. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles are ready to try to make another run at a Super Bowl.
I thought the interesting thing that you said was they should be able to sustain an injury or overcome an injury.
Man, genius.
Yeah, can they overcome it at quarterback like they have in the past? And that's where they've been great and they've been special. But that answer has left the building. And the question I still have, as good as that offensive line has been, he had almost as many sacks last year in 11 games as he did his first season. Yep. Has he learned to throw the ball away? Has he learned not to take those unnecessary chances? Has he grown and matured the way that Cam Newton's talking about growing and maturing? And if he hasn't, there's going to be somebody else playing quarterback pretty quickly in Philly.
Carson Wentz, 2 season-ending injuries in 3 seasons.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I don't mean to play a whole lot of this stuff, but see, I want you to understand, because Eric Mangini kind of puts it out there that, listen, 2 or 3 years they were losing. You also hear these guys talk about all of the weapons they have. See, when the Cowboys go out and get Dak, we hear, well, the Cowboys have to surround Dak with talent. You've got to have people around him. If the premise is that the quarterback is so great that they don't need anybody around him, then why did they have to retool? Because their premise is a great quarterback will just be able to win with just anybody out there. And that's why this stuff is just straight bull crap that they continue to talk. And Eric Mangini put it out there. The guy has been injured a lot. 2 season-ending injuries. He's only had 1 winning season. And of course, as he put my man on blast, that listen, you've already had him as Pat Mahomes and Hall of Famer and everything else. And this is where the reverse of this is kind of interesting, because you've had Dak Prescott, who has not missed a game. You've had Dak Prescott that's had 3 winning seasons. You have Dak Prescott that, has less interceptions and more games. You have Dak Prescott who has more touchdowns total than Carson Wentz. But you don't hear any of that. The way they talk about Dak, and I'm not saying that Dak Prescott is the best quarterback in the NFL, but you're making excuses for Carson Wentz, and you're killing Dak for the same things. Let's just keep it fair and balanced here and understand that when you hear all of this stuff, Cowboy fans, because, they've got questions. They're saying, some days Wentz is looking great in practice, other days not so much. And you see and you hear them praise all of the weapons around him. Understand that Dak isn't as bad as you think he is. It's the narrative that is going against him. Because I got to tell you, I'm sure that that Carson Wentz's people didn't take the first offer that was offered to him by the Eagles. I can guarantee you that. But it wasn't heard and shot around the blogosphere. You only heard about him accepting that offer. Let's just keep it fair and balanced with Dak Prescott. I'm Mark Holmes, and I'll see you tonight, because tonight I'm going to be bringing some heat up in here. I'll see you soon.